So, Eram. Possibly the most ambiguous character in Deltarune. We know very little about them. We don't even know their real name. And because of their ambiguous nature, there's been some debate as to whether they even exist or not. Maybe they're Ram, maybe they're Friend, maybe they're the Knight. Well, I'm here to show you why none of those explanations make sense to me, and why I think Eram has to be their own character. Oh, and before I continue, this is my first long-form Deltarune video, so I'd really appreciate if you could support me by liking, commenting, subscribing, you know the drill. I really want to do more videos like this, so everything is appreciated greatly. Okay, just to get everyone on the same page here, I'm gonna go over a basic summary of what we know about Eram, as well as a few theories that I've seen about how they're actually some other guy off camera. So, here's what we know. Eram is a mysterious figure that appears in the sword route of Chapter 3. They also seem to be the one orchestrating the sword route based on the little bits of dialogue we've got from them. They have some sort of history with Chris, and are either watching us during the previous chapter somehow, or are just really good at reading Chris's expressions. They claim to be holding the Shadow Mantle, and they put it into an unreachable chest after the fight. And that's about all we know. The name that we've given them comes from the song that plays right before their fight, titled Eram. I feel safe calling them Eram personally, but I totally get why you wouldn't. Now, let's go over some potential candidates for who Eram could be, if not their own character. Number 1. Ram. What if Eram is actually just Ram? The theory goes that since Ram is the one giving you access to the sword route, it would make sense for him to be the one controlling what goes on during it too. The main evidence for this theory is that Ram fits a ton of patterns that have been associated with secret bosses, always talking about freedom, being a forgotten object, etc. And Eram is the secret boss of Chapter 3. It's not the Knight. The Knight is the shadow or crystal boss, but not the secret boss. So, instead of having him in this weird state of acting like a secret boss but not actually being one, maybe he was actually Eram the whole time. It makes sense, right? Their names are almost identical too. So, in this case, Eram is just Ram in disguise. Number 2. Friend. This one is quite interesting. Friend is another super ambiguous Deltarune character, and they have a lot of overlap with Eram. For starters, Friend literally appears in the Eram fight. You might think this immediately disproves the theory, because look at it. They're in the same room. They have to be different people. But that's assuming that the thing we fight is actually Eram. So, this theory proposes that the person talking to us throughout the sword route is actually Friend, and that the thing we fight is just the Shadow Mantle itself. Therefore, Eram doesn't exist. It's just Friend the whole time. This is my favorite of the 3 theories, even though I personally don't believe it. Number 3. The Knight. Okay, this one is a lot less common than the other 2 as far as I know, but I still wanted to cover it for completeness. To start off, Burning Eyes and Black Knife are incredibly similar songs if you pay attention to the beginning, so that's already 1 point in favor of Eram being related to the Knight. But now for the real evidence. Throughout the entire sword route, pretty much every character loosely represents an actual character outside of the game. The obvious ones are Birdly and Noelle, but you can draw connections with pretty much all of them. Watch Root's theory if you want more on that. With one exception. Eram. But what if Eram wasn't an exception? Maybe Eram is actually a representation of the Knight. They're both mysterious black characters with exactly 1 facial feature and a recognizable laugh. So, in this last theory, Eram technically exists, but not as a really unique character, just as a representation of the Knight. Okay, great. We've got 3 different theories, and they all have fairly solid evidence. So, which one is it? Well, you read the title. It's none of them. And here's why. First up, Eram. This one is the easiest to disprove. Structurally, it makes a lot of sense. But if you actually pay attention to Ram's character, you'd realize that this just doesn't make sense for him to do. Ram's defining character trait is his love for Chris. Everything he does is for Chris, and more than anything else, he wants Chris to be happy. So please tell me, why would he willingly try to kill them? I just don't see a world where Eram being Eram makes any sense. On top of this, it just totally derails his whole unimportance thing. Ram was very deliberately made to feel robbed of importance, both in the story as well as outside of it. I mean, he's one of the only named Darkners without any merch whatsoever. So, making him secretly be Eram kinda just goes against his storyline entirely. Oh, also, this is kinda a joke, but also kinda totally disproves the theory. Eram isn't British! Next up, Night Ram. This one's harder to disprove fully, but still not too bad. Okay, so one of the Knight's big things is that they never talk. They can laugh, but never actually speak. So then why does Eram talk so much? This isn't a complete disproval of the theory though, so let me continue. There are 0 characters in the Mantle game that speak unless they're being controlled by people off screen. This means that it wouldn't make any sense for Eram to be an in-game version of the Knight, since 1, the Knight doesn't talk, so it can't be the Knight just controlling them off screen. And 2, in-game characters don't talk, so they can't be a representation of the Knight. And finally, Friend Ram. This one is the hardest to disprove, and I have a lot more to say about it. Because we don't know very much about Friend, and we know nothing about their personality, I can't disprove this theory by just pointing out contradictions in how the characters act. So I'm gonna have to go a bit more out there for this one. I find the idea that the person talking to you right before the fight and the person you fight being 2 separate characters kinda weird. It feels too much like a fake out for the sake of being a fake out thing. But I do understand where it's coming from. I mean, Toby has literally done things like this before. A good example of this is the Undertale intro. When first playing the game, you think the kid who's depicted in the intro is the same character you play as. And you also think that the character you name is the same one you play as. But at the end of the game, you learn that that's not true. And it's a really well done reveal. So why does this not work for Friend being Eram? Well, there's a few reasons. First off, in the past, Toby has used fake-outs as a way to enhance his stories. And in order for those fake-outs to work, they have to be things that 1, are incredibly important and central to the story, 2, are unmissable, or at least hard to miss, and 3, are things that add to the story rather than subtracting from it. A fourth criteria that I think should be considered is that things like this should be introduced or subverted either near the beginning or end of the story, not in the middle. Again, as an example, the Undertale intro. The first point is easy. The intro is about Kara, whose story with Asriel is basically the entire plot of Undertale, so definitely very important. And also easy. Both the setup and subversion are basically unmissable on a full playthrough of the game. And does the subversion add to the story? Absolutely! It's a great subversion specifically because it goes against what you're taught to think when playing any RPG. The game is about you. You name your character after yourself. But in this case, you'd be wrong. The person you named is not you. They're their own person who had their own story that still affects the present. Now, before we get to Friend Ram, let's do one more example. This time, something that's actually in Deltarune. Let's talk about the ending of Chapter 1. This, along with Chapter 2's beginning, serve as both the setup and subversion. It's a setup in making you realize that Chris is their own person, and making you think that they're evil and gonna kill everyone! But, of course, only one of those things is subverted. They just want to just eat some pie after all, right? But the real genius is that this lulls you into a false sense of security that breaks at the end of Chapter 2 once more. This is then continued in Chapters 3 and 4 as a very central plot point. This is a genius use of subversion, because it keeps you guessing the whole time while not making it feel like everything is just being subverted for the fun of it. And it also follows my 4 criteria perfectly as well. So, now let's see how the setup and subversion of Friend Ram stacks up to my criteria. Well, the first criteria actually goes quite well. Friend is a very important character in understanding the story of Deltarune. I can't deny that. But it's all the other criteria where things start to fall apart. First off, when does the setup occur? Well, Friend has still barely appeared, and hasn't been mentioned by name even once in-game. So, the setup is the mantle game. You're set up to think the person talking to you is this mysterious Eram character, but in the future, the subversion that it was actually this other mysterious character called Friend the whole time will happen. I really don't think this works, unfortunately. First off, the setup only begins in the middle of Chapter 3. That's literally halfway through the entire game, which just seems way too late to be setting up a major fake-out like this. On top of that, the setup is entirely missable, which directly goes against a big part of making the fake-out work. All this to say, it just seems like too big of a stretch to say that Friend is Eram, or really any other theory about Eram not being a real character. But hey, that's just my opinion. You're free to disagree, and I encourage you to talk about your opinions in the comments. If you disagree with me or anyone else's theories, just make sure to talk about it in a respectful way. Discussion is healthy and we shouldn't be at each other's throats trying to be the only correct one. But with that, there's one more thing to talk about. So, now that I've tried to convince you that Eram is in fact real, what's next? Well, this is gonna be a bit short, but how about I try to do a little prediction for how Eram could return in future chapters? First off, while I disagree with the theory that Eram is Friend, I do believe that Eram is related to Friend. It is also my personal belief that both Eram and Friend are going to appear in a more substantial way during the supposed Roots section of the game. And whether it happens in Chapter 5 or 6, I believe there is a major boss fight in store for us. And that wraps up this video! Again, this is my first time trying to make a long-form Deltarune video, as well as being my first theory video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're ready to see Eram again in the future. I know I am. I've been fighting them every day for almost a year now! Since Chapter 5 is on the horizon, I wanted to try moving my content towards more stuff like this, cause I am not doing another daily challenge like this again. So, if you enjoyed, please support me so that I can keep doing more stuff like this. But I won't keep you any longer, so I'll see you all tomorrow!